strong. I got little games I play when it goes really hard. When I'm working in the factory. And the machines, they make this rhythms. And I just start dreaming and it all becomes music. You see.
I mean, I've always loved music, but for me, music is kind of it's a means to an end, and the end is touching the world. So I want to change the world. I don't know if I'm going to do it to the extent that I want to do, but music is the means because it's kind of like a gravitational pull. And it creates this kind of magnetic force that calls people around. And when they come around, I can give them my energy and my opinion and whatever. And it's baby steps right now. I've got crazier plans that we've manifested, so we'll see what happens. I was really political for a while in like 2001, 2002. Everything I learned just outraged me because there's always, in any kind of mammalian society, there's going to be these hierarchies and these systems of the way that wealth is distributed into the hands of a few who control the masses, and always finding it frustrating to see who was in control and how they were abusing their power. I just feel like in terms of the evolution of our species, there's elements of our personalities that are very oriented around self-serving mechanisms, and those are good things. It's like, make sure we have enough food for ourselves and our family or whatnot, but that greed gets out of control. And there's this element called empathy, which is the balance, and that's what separates us from animals and what makes us aware of other people and worry about other people's best interests and stuff. So I'm really into expanding the network of empathy and compassion, and that relates to the politics that are going on that are, we've got a first world that is all about luxuries and indulgences for themselves, and no one really realizes that it's taking away from other people. For a while I thought that it was almost fucked up to spend your time partying when other people were suffering. I felt like we had a duty or a responsibility to get to the bottom of it and to use our voices to make a difference, and I still do, but I think that there's also something that I was overlooking, which is just the genuine, positive, emotional experience of music on humans. Humans love music, and allowing myself to not be so self-righteous that I would berate myself, I'm spending all my time making music and I'm not getting enough work done, and actually looking back and thinking, no, I'm capable of contributing to people's lives in a way that really makes an impact, and I'm excited by that.
In high school, I was obsessed with heavy metal at first, but it progressed, year by year into more and more hardcore forms.
One of the reasons I liked it is because I was raised in a hippie commune, and then my parents became born-again Christian, and when I was around 12 or 13, I decided that I believe, that there's a beautiful force in the universe that has some relationship to humans, but I don't know what it is, and I definitely don't believe in any kind of man-made religion. And so I needed some kind of way to push back against Christianity, and I felt like death metal as a little pimply teenager was a good way to kind of, just exert shock value and just say, F off, I'm gonna think for myself. Today's youth culture, who is on the fringe and is kind of subversive or disinterested in mainstream sounds, I guess they were the metalheads of yesteryear, and today they're into, experimental forms of bass music, tailoring, this newer sound to this generation, and I think it's pretty clear that this generation responds to that sound.
So a dubstep or grime is kind of like this ultra slow, ultra dirty spawn of hip hop, but it's almost at a breakbeat speed, but it's at a halftime breakbeat speed. So it feels like abnormally slow, and it just gives this really heavy feel. I definitely play a lot of dubstep, and I make a lot of dubstep, but is more of a mix of like glitchy hip hop and kind of like left field electronic experimentation. This genre bending is kind of like blending a couple different genres. For me, one of the reasons to make that music and to like push myself forward in this creative realm is to expand that sphere of influence and that ability to influence other people and to be influenced. And looking at the body of revolution and looking at myself as one of the fingers in that body, not as the head. So I'm just kind of like gathering momentum and gathering a network and organically trying to fit in with the body of revolution and of activity. And censorship is more coming from corporate infrastructures that are already in place that don't really even know or care that we exist, like Rupert Murdoch and Clear Channel, and the fact that there's very few cool radio stations. They killed the music industry by killing the content, by controlling the content, and kids respond to authenticity. Kids want music that people aren't telling them is cool, but their ears are telling them is fucking undeniable.
One thing about Bassnectar when it comes to audio is it's an incredibly enveloping, visceral experience. It's physical. It's more than just the music. Okay, it's the experience. It's the crowd being one entity for that time that is on stage. It's the lights. It's the video. The atmosphere, the heat, the sweat, you name it. But it's more than just the music. There's no two ways about that. You know, I can go home and listen to a Bassnectar track on my stereo, and I walk into a Bassnectar show, and that track takes on a whole new life.
When I release a record, what I try and do is also have an hour to 2 hours of music that isn't released, so that when I'm touring, I can play either full versions of my songs or bits of my songs and mix it in with other tracks. And it's kind of like they're sacrificial lambs, because they're just as amazing of songs, but you're just not going to release them and you're going to save them for the show, which is another reason that I don't like to have the shows recorded, because it kind of like, it violates me.
One thing that I like doing is going as far as I can with one extreme until I feel like that extreme is so abrasive that I want to go to the direct polar opposite. Meaning I'll like play something so extremely bestial and perverse and hardcore, and then I'm like, okay, I need to get into some very melodic, gentle undertones or whatever, and so then I'm there and I'm like, okay, now I need to get into something hip-hop because I want vocals, and then there's too much hip-hop, so now I want to do something instrumental. And you just kind of like bounce back and forth between extremes like a manic freak.
When I'm playing live, you know, it's a very amorphous feeling. So sometimes you might play a song and it starts at the beginning and ends at the end. Sometimes it might just be one loop of that song recombined. Like you said with Ableton, it's infinite possibilities. So I couldn't say where a song has evolved to, because it's not in any finished state. It'll be different every time, or maybe it'll be the exact fucking same 3 times in a row, and then the next time it'll be absolutely unrecognizable.
I want to kind of recreate the experience in my past when I first went to my first electronic music show and just had my mind blown. I don't remember anything about that night other than dancing for 9 hours and meeting some of the best friends of my life and feeling like I was a part of something that was larger than even space and time. Bassnectar is kind of like my response to the world, or like me reflecting my favorite things about life back to other people. A lot of times it doesn't have anything to do with music. It has more to do with, you know, making a social impact or having some kind of effect on culture.
It's the weirdest thing. I feel like I've been in a coma for about 20 years, and I'm just now waking up. And I'm just now waking up. I feel like I've been in a coma. It's the weirdest thing. I feel like I've been in a coma.